take a trip around the curve. The Daytime Emmy Creative Arts Awards went down over the weekend with Donnie's Dream Cars and Buddy Valastro scoring gold. More Emmys were given out for the Kelly Clarkson Show. Congratulations. The inaugural Gotham TV Award winners were Baby Reindeer, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, the Jared Carmichael reality show, and many more. Julianne Hough and Utkarsh Ambudkar are hosting the Tony Awards pre-show on Pluto TV, and the show will feature performances from Merrily We Roll Along, Cabaret, The Outsiders, and more. And guess what, y'all? Dolly Parton is coming to Broadway in 2026. Here we go again. Matchbox Driving Adventures comes to consoles and PC this September from Mattel, and they're partnering with Universal Pictures and Akiva Goldsman for Monster High feature film. Superman cast rounds out with Michaela Hoover and Christopher McDonald and SNL alum Beck Bennett to the cast. Kristen Stewart to play astronaut Sally Ride as Amazon MGM Studios nears a limited series deal for The Challenger. Dorian Missick and Carla Souza join the Prime Video thriller series Obsession. Jared Leto is to produce and star in H. Wood Media film inspired by professor turned cat burglar suspect Dr. Lawrence Gray. Hugh Jackman, Emma Thompson, Nicholas Braun, Nicholas Galitzine, and more star in the MGM Amazon comedy Three Bags Full, a sheep detective movie. Jessica Camacho joins Jensen Ackles in Countdown, an Amazon series. Mandy Patinkin is set to executive produce a documentary film from Ivan Cash, The Ever-Curious Man. The Upshaws is ending. The comedy renewed for a final season by Netflix with a Part 7 pickup. Average Joe, starring Dion Cole, renewed for Season 2 by BET+, and Jennifer Love Hewitt returns to Lifetime for a tentpole holiday movie. Brian Hallisey is co-starring. IATSE extends its contract talks again with AMPTP. I'll keep you tuned on that one. Jensen Ackles is to star in the Prime Video thriller Countdown from Derek Haas. The supernatural star portrays LAPD officer Mark Meacham. Murray Bartlett is to co-star opposite Amy Adams in At the Sea, and Perry Matfield and Frankie A. Rodriguez join Chad Powers' Hulu comedy series. Gumby Kids in the works with Fox's Bento Box alongside an adult animated series. The Hunger Games: Sunrise on the Reaping, Lionsgate sets fall 2026 release for the new prequel. Director Francis Lawrence is in talks to return. Hunger Games star Tom Blythe joins Sophie Wilde in new Regency's Watch Dogs adaptation. Peacock is streaming Kung Fu Panda 4 beginning June 21st. Nicola Coughlan, Nonzo Anozie, and Baby Reindeer breakout Jessica Gunning join Enid Blyton adaptation The Magic Fairway Tree. HBO's Rachel Sennott pilot adds Odessa Azion, Miles Robbins, Jordan Firstman, and True Whitaker. Quinta Brunson and Anderson Paak join Pharrell Williams' Michael Gondry's musical from Universal. Marion Cotillard joins Apple's The Morning Show for Season 4. Lionsgate Pictures picks up the Cillian Murphy-led adaptation Small Things Like These. Tim Millions is set to direct, and the film premiered at the Berlin Film Festival. Steve Zahn joins Glenn Powell in Chad Powers' Hulu comedy series, and Taraji P. Henson, Sherry Shepherd, Tiana Taylor, Glenn Turman, and more are set for the Tyler Perry Netflix picture Straw. Angelica Houston is starring in the latest BBC BritBox Agatha Christie adaptation, and Rochelle Aites joins CBS's Watson, departing SWAT as a series regular. Patricia Heaton joins Frasier, reuniting with Kelsey Grammer, and Peaky Blinders official movie has been greenlit at Netflix with Cillian Murphy starring and producing, Tom Harper to direct from Stephen Knight's No Holds Barred script. Paul Giamatti is set to star in the Hostel TV series from Eli Roth. The show is described as a reinvention of the horror franchise. Kids acquires the theatrical and home entertainment rights to Dan the Dan. Kevin Hart and the Obama's Higher Ground fast-track fatherhood series for Netflix and Sony TV. Richard Linklater is developing a film, Blue Moon, on the famed American songwriters Richard Rodgers and Lorenz Hart and their parting of ways. Camila Mendez and Rachel Matthews launched the production company Honor Roll, and Sarah Godon joins Wayward's Netflix limited series. Scott Derrickson and C. Robert Cargill Inc. first look deal with Screen Gems, and Succession star Sarah Snook is to lead and executive produce the new Peacock thriller series All Her Fault. Corey Stahl and Bobby Naderi joined Prime Video's The Better Sister as series regulars. Abby Jacobson is to adapt Isle McElroy's People Collide with UCP and Killer Films. Chiwetel Ejiofor's Rob Peace has been acquired by Republic Pictures, and Winston Duke signs with M88. Eleanor Burgess has been tapped to pen the feature adaptation of Lisa Jewell's thriller, None of This Is True, for Netflix. Coleman Domingo is checking into Netflix's The Four Seasons. Michael Stuhlbarg joins Julia Roberts in Luca Guadagnino's After the Hunt. And American Gladiators has been rebooted and is coming to Amazon. Hugh Jackman and Jodie Comer pick The Death of Robin Hood pre-sales to UK, and filming is lined up for early 2025. Today on The Curvy Critic with Carla Renata, we're going to talk about The Hitman, which is now streaming on Netflix. And I have the entire cast of the Sundance hit film Ghostlight. Plus, I may or may not talk about Firebrand, or I may just tell you where to go see it. And I had a chat with my former co-star at Heart of Dixie, Cress Williams, who is playing the Chimney Man in the Pasadena Playhouse production of Jelly's Last Jam. Bad boys, what you gonna do? We gonna talk all about it on The Curvy Critic with Carla Renata, coming up right now.
Hold up. Wait a minute.
This is Carla Renata, aka The Curvy Critic, and I shoot straight from the hip.
Yeah, you know I'm always shooting straight from the hip.
Let's take a trip around the curve. Hey everybody, it's your girl Carla Renata, aka The Curvy Film Critic. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of the podcast. I'm so happy that you're here. And of course, I always check to see what the comments and things are. My boy Brandon stopped by, and of course he said he can't wait to see Inside Out 2 this week. Well, I have, and I gotta tell you all about it, but not today because it's under embargo and I can't really talk about it. But I got lots of surprises in that regard for you next week, Brandon. So come back and I'm going to share all of that with you. I had a really busy week, y'all. It was mostly writing and mostly watching a lot of films and doing a lot of interviews, which I'll share with you in the next coming weeks. But one of the interviews, before I get into that, if this is your first time joining me, welcome. I'm Carla Renata. Thank you so much for popping in. Give me a big thumbs up if you're on YouTube to let me know that you were here. If you're watching this via Twitter, LinkedIn, or Facebook and Facebook Live, thank you so much for your support. I much wholly appreciate it. Okay, so y'all hear me talking about the fact that I was an actress all the time, right? Right. So, or am an actress, not was, am. And so one of the shows that I recurred on for I think it was, I want to say it was 4 years, but it might have been 3, was a show on the CW. It was called Heart of Dixie. And it starred Cress Williams, who is currently in LA doing Jelly's Last Jam at the Pasadena Playhouse. But y'all are going to remember him from this. Okay, so so this is us on the set of Heart of Dixie, just lashes and makeup for days. That's us on the set of Heart of Dixie. I think that might have been during the first season or something. This is where I forgot I knew him from. This is Cress on Living Single, where he played Queen Latifah's boyfriend, Scooter. What? I had forgotten all about that. I had forgotten that he was Black Lightning on the CW. Yes, the same corny dude that was on Heart of Dixie was in Black Lightning. He was also in this movie called Never Been Kissed with Drew Barrymore, and this is what he looked like in that movie, right? He has different looks all the time, but this is what he's looking like these days. He is at the Pasadena Playhouse, starring in Jelly's Last Jam, playing the Chimney Man, which is a role that was created by my good friend Keith David, who originated it in the Broadway company. And Jelly's Last Jam was a show that starred the late Gregory Hines, Tanya Pinkins. Both of them won Tony Awards for their performances in that play. Keith David, of course, was in that musical. It was a star-studded cast, and they just recently did a reboot of it for the Encore series in New York, and now they're doing it here at the Pasadena Playhouse. But I'm not going to keep talking. I'm just going to let Cress do the talking from now on. And so take a look and a listen to this interview that I did with Cress so he can tell you all about his role in Jelly's Last Jam. Hey, Cress.
What's up, Carla? How you doing?
I'm doing good, brother. After seeing you last night in that show, you did the daggone thing. I was like, first of all, let me just address this. I worked with you for what, almost 4 years on Heart of Dixie. I didn't know
Yeah.
you could sing. I forgot that you was Scooter on In Living Single. I forgot that you was on Star Trek. I forgot that you was in one of my favorite rom-coms ever, Never Been Kissed. I'm like, we could have been having so much fun. I was like, ignorance is bliss, I guess, because I probably would have fanned out or something. But I was
Uh,
how did I not know this? And I was at the show last night, and there were a bunch of OGs from the
yeah.
time they did it at the Mark Taper Forum, Jelly's
Yeah.
Mark Taper Forum, and some Broadway people that I knew from when I was on Broadway.
Okay.
I want to know what it felt like when you saw Jelly's last jam, because you said you saw it as a kid, right?
I saw it at the taper. I mean, like in my 20s, a college theater student, and uh I mean, it's such a wild moment. I saw it, and I remember Keith David coming out in the very beginning, and with his cane, and that he had this very distinct limp, and when he broke out in that with the prologue, I just it was just like a chilling moment. And as I watched the entire show, I was just like, I want to play that part someday.
And look
Um,
at that, dreams come true, huh?
yes, yes, and it was amazing. A couple nights ago, he came to the show, and so to get his approval um, was amazing. It's interesting because you want something and then you start to do it, and it was scary in the beginning because it was like, when you do film and television, it's like you're originating whatever characters you're playing. There's no shoes to fill. There's no shadow of somebody else. But doing this play was like I hear Keith David in my head, like and and so starting the rehearsal process, I was like, thankfully my director, Kent Gash, he's just amazing, but he's done the show before, and
Yeah.
I was like, look, you got to like check me because I don't want to just be doing Keith David, like I don't want to be just doing an imitation. And he was really, great in saying, look, there's certain things that you have that he also has, that you guys both share together, your voice, your things like that. It was like, but then we started to dig into the scenes and start to find the things that, like, not for the sake of like, Keith David did this, you do this. It was just like, no, let me go ahead and dig into this stuff and find my own take. And so the OGs being there, I got some great responses from them last night to let me know, like, okay, no, I made it my own. So then now to come back to theater, which I just thought like, yeah, this is where I come from. And I'm like, man,
Listen, them 8 shows a week are not for the weary, honey.
yeah. Well, the rehearsal process alone, like that was an adjustment process to be going from, film and television is a weekend, it's a weekday experience. And when they were like, okay, so rehearsals are 6 days a week, I'm like, oh,
And you like,
okay.
you like run
What?
that by me again?
And they're like, and your one day off is Monday. I'm like, Monday?
Yeah,
Like,
dude.
okay.
Imagine doing tours and that being your schedule
Oh
because
my
the day
goodness.
off is the day that you travel.
Right.
You understand what I'm
It's
saying?
crazy.
It is
It's,
not for the weary. It is not.
no, it is not. And then like, we mounted this show in like 3.5 weeks, which
That's a
I
lot.
only looked around and nobody seemed panicked. All, because I'm working with people who are all like musical theater people, and they all were like, yeah. They're like, yeah, okay, this is, and they were like, I've done shows in less time. I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, it's a whole different muscle. And even the rehearsal process is, which I love the rehearsal process, but it was like getting used to that fact. When you're doing film and television, you you take a piece, you work it, and you leave it, and you leave. By the end of the day, that piece is gone, and then you're on to the next piece, and you work it and you leave it, and there's a sense of putting a button on something at the end of every day.
Yeah.
Whereas rehearsal, there would be days I come home and my wife would be like, "How's it going?" I'm like, "Babe, I'm not having a good day." Um, and I'm coming home going, you know what? I think I suck actually. I'm not good. Like,
Wow.
and realizing and then having to like process that and go, no, that was just today. And like the next day, and it gets better and better, and I'm working with people who like this is what they do
But this is what
all
you
the
do too.
time.
I'm gonna stop you, bruh, because this is what you do too. Because I saw
Mhm.
you. If this would be a different conversation if I was talking to you about this show and had not seen your performance. I saw your performance. And as somebody that been in a plethora of Broadway shows and Keith David is a dear friend of mine, I'm telling you, and I need for you to hear and receive it. You did that. You did that. You did not suck. You were fantabulous. Okay. Let's just take that and receive it.
I will receive it. And thank you so much. That means you don't know how I will take that. I'm gonna take
Cress,
that
dude.
and wear
I was like, my mouth was like blam blam on the floor. I was like, what? Let me ask you this real quick before I let you go, because I want to talk to you all afternoon, and my time is about to run short. But the puppetry. So I've done Broadway shows where I did puppetry. I was in The Lion King and I did Avenue Q, but I didn't have to do puppets in Avenue Q, but everyone around me had to do those rod puppets.
Yeah.
That's a whole different thing. How challenging was that for you? Because you're already saying that, stepping into Keith's shoes, doing the theater schedule and all of this, and you're coming home going, oh my God, what am I going to do? How did you overcome that?
I mean, it was just kind of like, I think it was just the excitement because like I know the show and I know what happens. And so, when our director's like, this is what we're doing. I didn't even realize it. We had been like kind of in rehearsal and I didn't think about like, oh, that's right. There's no white people in this cast. But there's a couple of white characters. And then he said, we're going to be doing puppets. And I was like, and when he explained the reasoning, I was like, oh, that was just one of those moments, one of many moments where I was like, this show's gonna be fire. I was like, that's dope. And so I just and I still play with them like, when the first set of puppets are on stage doing it, I'm like in the wings doing their lines in the mirror just to make sure I'm like that my puppet's working and that I'm like, okay, I think I'm ready to go now. So that was just fun because also I felt like, there wasn't, Keith didn't have to do puppets. So it's like, I don't have anything to compare it to. I could just go and just do this thing. So that was just fun.
That was one of my favorite moments in the show because it was different. Tell me a little bit about your daughter's venture, Better Beings.
So it's a beautiful line called Better Beings. Right now there is some jewelry out, but she's also going to be expanding to other things. I want people to find it, Better Beings. Please, 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 please.
Tell them where they can find it.
You can find it on Instagram. She has her own page, and it'll link you to where you can look at the products and purchase the products and help us out.
Yeah. And is Dead Wrong going to be streaming or is it going to be in theaters?
It's streaming. I think on multiple platforms. And I'm not sure about a theatrical release as of yet.
Okay, cool. Well, Cress Williams, first of all, I want to thank you for taking a little bit of time out of your day on your day off to chat with me because it's been 5,000 years since I've seen you.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And if you decide you want to do a cabaret and you need a singing partner, I'm your girl.
Please. Oh, yes, yes.
Let a sister know. Reach out and holla. But thank you so much and good luck with the rest of your run. Seriously. Thanks, bro. I appreciate you.
You too.
This was wonderful. I'm happy to have this conversation with you. And follow me on social media. You don't even follow a sister.
Oh, I'm gonna follow you now. I'm gonna be honest.
You're the worst. I know.
Like, I just kind of go and
you just live in life.
I'm old. Oh,
Negro, please. we probably in the same vicinity. So you ain't that. I am not claiming that. I am a seasoned dog. Like I am seasoned like Lowry's. Okay, I'm claiming that.
Nice. Yes. Why you say that? I'm gonna drink these electrolytes. Because I'm seasoned, but my body needs a little lubrication.
Oh, we talked for the longest time, and it probably was the longest conversation I'd ever had with Cress. But It was a great conversation. And we had that conversation the night after I'd seen his show, which was opening night about a week ago. So if you were in the Los Angeles area or visiting for any reason, Jelly's Last Jam is running until, I believe, let me see, I think it's running until the 23rd. Let me just check my calendar. Yeah, it's running until the 23rd of June. The runs, excuse me, at the Pasadena Playhouse, a very finite. They only last for about 2 or 3 weeks. But if you are in town and you are looking for something to do, please make your way over to see Jelly's Last Jam. The cast is spectacular. The production is spectacular. Kent Gash did a wonderful job directing it, and I had a wonderful time watching it. All right, so there is a film that is out now. I talked about it last time. It's called Hitman with the go-to person right now, Glenn Powell. He Glenn Powell. If you notice in Around the Curve, I always got something to say about Glenn Powell because it seemed like Glenn Powell got a movie out every other week. But before I get into the thing about Glenn Powell, I had set out in my intro I was going to talk about Firebrand. I found out the embargo for Firebrand is until tomorrow, so I'm going to wait on that, and I'll just write it up in my reviews, where you can find them at this site right here, thecurvyfilmcritic.com. Thecurvyfilmcritic.com is where all of my written reviews live all the time. Now, let me get back into what I was talking about before I said that. So, Hitman, I believe I talked about it before because it had a theatrical release before, and now it's on Netflix. So if you didn't catch it in the theaters, you can now catch it on Netflix, and it's directed and by Richard Linklater, who I mentioned in Around the Curve, and Glenn Powell is the actor in it. He's producing it. He co-wrote the script with Richard. I'm like, Glenn Powell is just that dude right now. He reminds me of, like, he would be like this generation's like Brad Pitt, Tom Cruise, or Robert Redford. But I talked about the film before, but I'll give you a brief synopsis of it. It's Powell stars as a straight-laced professor who doubles as a fake hitman based on the true story from a 2001 Texas monthly magazine by the same name. And it's the article was written by Skip Hollingsworth. So this is the premise. So, excuse me. A part-time staffer with the New Orleans Police Department stumbles into the role of posing as an undercover hitman with the goal of arresting those trying to hire him. And then shenanigans ensue. I won't go into the whole thing because I talked about this before, but y'all will get your giggle on. It is very funny. And again, Hitman is in theaters, is having a theatrical release, and now you can catch it on Netflix as well. All right, so let's get into this film that I love, 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 love. Excuse me, let me drink some water. I'm choking. Okay, so there is this film called Ghostlight, and it played at the Sundance Film Festival. It was one of those things that was on my list to see, and I didn't get to it before I was leaving Park City. But let me tell you something about this particular film right here. It was so good. It's directed by Alex Thompson and Kelly O'Sullivan, and it stars the Kupferers, Keith Kupferer, Catherine Mallon Kupferer, and Tara Mallon. Now, Keith, Catherine, and Tara are a real family. Keith and Tara are the parents. Catherine is the daughter. You with me so far? Okay, cool. So what happens in this film? Oh, and the film is going to drop on June 14th, and it's an IFC film. So what happens in this film is that Keith plays this construction worker, and he finds himself kind of like drifting from his wife and his daughter after they've had a major loss in their family. I don't want to say what the loss is because it will ruin the gist of the film for you. But in the process of him going through this very unusual type of grief, he discovers this community theater thanks to this chick named Rita, who's played by Oscar nominee Dolly De Leon. And while he's in the process of dealing with them, they are starting rehearsals for a production of Romeo and Juliet. Shenanigans ensue, and the next thing you know, this Dan, who's played by Keith, ends up being roped into this production of Romeo and Juliet, and he plays Romeo, and Dolly De Leon plays Juliet. Let me tell you something. I was down for the seasoned Romeo and Juliet, and I told Keith and Tara, like, and I told Alex and Kelly this too. I'm down for the season Juliet and Romeo. I need to see that. I really needed that in my life, because we've seen the young traditional version done all the time. We've also seen theaters sometimes take a license of an original piece and kind of turn it upside down and on its head. I would love to see this version of Romeo and Juliet with somebody that's over 50. I would be down for that. And not for nothing, but Kelly O'Sullivan said that I would make a great Juliet. So I'm just saying. Anyway, so I want to say that about the film. I want to say that the way that grief is addressed in this film, grief is a very tricky emotion. It is so tricky, and it catches you by surprise. One day you think you're skipping along with your life, and then a song or a moment, or maybe even a piece of clothing will remind you of what you've lost, and you just go into another space. There's no way to avoid it, and there's no way to get around it. You just find ways to deal with it so that you can get on with your life. I remember asking my mother one time. My grandmother has been gone for quite some time, and I remember asking my mother if um, if she ever thinks about my grandmother, or if she ever got over losing my grandmother. And my mom said that losing your mother is something that you just learn to deal with, but you never ever ever get over it. And she said she thinks about her mom every single day. So, having said that, I want them to talk to you about this really special film. And I'm gonna go out on a limb, and I'm gonna predict that this film is probably gonna be part of the awards conversation, because it is very, very special, and it did get a pickup out of Sundance by IFC. So I did speak with Alex and Kelly and Keith and Catherine and Tara. So take a look and listen to this interview with the cast of Ghostlight and the co-directors, Kelly O'Sullivan and Alex Thompson. So let me just tell you, I'm a theater person too. I did a lot of Broadway back in the day. So when I saw this film, I got my giggle on. I was so excited, because I was like, oh no. This is hilarious, and it's with Shakespeare too. So I'm wondering if you guys had a special affection for Shakespeare, and that is why you chose to build the story around Romeo and Juliet and Shakespeare in a community theater.
You know what's so funny is I have so much love for community theater, but before this, I did not like Shakespeare. I was like, and I think it's because most of the time people do it and it feels sort of pretentious, and it sort of feels like it's only for like the elite, like people in neckties are going to come see it. But I really, through this process, have grown to love it. And now, I would like see any production that the ensemble in the film would put on of Shakespeare, because it feels so fun and it feels like it doesn't take itself too seriously. But yeah, we both grew up doing a lot of theater.
Yeah.
And so we have deep roots in it.
Yeah.
Which brings me to your supporting characters. They were pure comedy. Are they all actors that you guys knew in Chicago, or did you just, randomly cast them in those roles?
We knew all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dexter, I had seen in a show called Charm a long time ago. Who plays Greg. Alma is very active in SAG after in Chicago, like hosting pizza parties and stuff. But she's a seasoned, veteran actor. I mean, they're all folks that we know and love, and yeah.
And they're so specific, each one of them has such a like strong personality in the best way, that as soon as you're introduced to them, you kind of go like, oh, right, that person, I know them. I've met somebody like them. And yeah, they're all brilliant comedians too.
Listen, the Black couple had me cracking up, especially the guy. He was just too serious about himself. I hollered. Have any of those characters, did you draw from people that you had worked with to build those characters? Because y'all, when I tell you I hollered out loud, I hollered out loud.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, each of those characters is drawn from somebody specific, or they're a combination of lots of people I've worked with. So yeah, like he's the Shakespeare purist who like that's okay, who like knows everything about Shakespeare and wants to make sure that everybody around him is doing it properly. And you have the HB, the guy with the big beard who like, is sort of just like, what is going on here? So yeah, I mean, they're all based on specific people.
Oh my God, that was genius. Chef's kiss on that one, for real, for real. And speaking of casting, was casting the Cuffers, was it intentional, or did it just kind of turn out that way, that they all happened to be family that you cast as family?
It was really organic, honestly. Like we didn't set out to do that. Kelly wrote it for Keith, and then Keith brought us the idea of Catherine. And then it was like it would be crazy to ignore the fact that there's a third extremely talented family member. And then when we really dug into it, Tara is incredible, and it just made so much sense. And I mean, I think you could like see they've got they add so much, I think, to we'd have to make it all up, with somebody else. They just show up and that's them to some extent.
Yeah, what's interesting? I remember this film being at Sundance, and it was on my list of things to see, and I didn't get a chance to see it there, but I've seen it now. And I didn't know then, and I didn't know going into watching it this time, that they were family until after the fact, which I'm glad I didn't know. Because it made my viewing experience a lot different than had I known that going into it. So again, chef's kiss on that too. Did you guys play theater games when you weren't on camera to prep for those scenes where you did the theater games?
No, what's so funny is I would go to where all the actors were and I would teach them the game. So they played like a practice round, but then also I taught them some of the theater games as we were filming to make it really fresh. And so a little bit of both. Like sometimes they would have practiced, and sometimes you're watching them learn the game in real time, which I think is pretty ridiculous and fun.
Yeah, you were like just off like not even like just off camera instructing them.
Yeah,
a lot of that stuff. Yeah.
Well, Alex and Kelly, I loved this, and I mostly loved it because you were dealing with a seasoned Romeo and Juliet. I'm gonna need you to write this for the stage for like some Black people, so I can go up in there and try to be a Juliet. You know what I mean?
Oh, I love that.
You'd be a great Juliet.
Yes.
I know this. No, I'm kidding. But thank you so much for your time. I really enjoyed the film, and I especially enjoyed speaking to you about it today.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thanks for your time.
All right, bye. Let me just say, I enjoyed this film so much, mostly because there was a seasoned Romeo and Juliet. I was living for all of that. I was living for them being in their 50s. I'm like, yes. Can we see that? Can we see that movie? Can we see that on a stage? I was living my best life with all of that. Okay. So do you guys intentionally keep your actor life rooted in Chicago as opposed to coming to LA? Because yes. I think it makes a difference when you do that.
Yeah, I run a theater company in Chicago. I'm the artistic director and founder of a company that does new work centering women's voices. So that's, yeah. And Keith's a founding member too. Catherine's a junior member of it too. So, Chicago is an amazing theater community, and really encouraging of you making your own work and doing your own thing. And that is really a huge part of how we got involved in making this film.
Yeah. And the three of y'all all together were giving me like a modern Barrymore's kind of thing happening. I'm just there I'm y'all's biggest fan. Let me just put that out there and let you know. But I'm interested to know, since you guys are related, what was the most challenging thing about working together, and what was the thing that brought you comfort in those really intensely difficult emotional scenes?
There weren't too many challenges as far as working with Tara and Catherine. I think there was that part of it was sort of the gem, because of the trust and the playfulness we were able to have with each other without, feeling each other out first if we were three different actors and testing each other's boundaries. So we already had that, and that was freeing in itself. There was a release at the end of the scene, and you knew that you didn't have to apologize for anything.
Yeah, I
And,
think that's it. Yeah.
Right. Catherine, I'm going to throw this one to you. Now, the way your mouth was popping off in that movie, honey, if that was in my house, I would not be living to tell the tale and talk to y'all today. So I know your parents are sitting there, but had you have a moment like that in your real life where you wanted to say something like that to them and you didn't?
Like you said, I would be killed. I would be disowned. I would be not, yeah. Like you would not see Catherine for a couple months. I'd be grounded in like some basement or something if I ever said the F word in my own house. Oh my God. That would be horrible.
Yeah, it wouldn't be good.
But yeah. So it was definitely different because, I would be saying all these curse words. To them, I would be, or sometimes, or when I was vaping in one of the scenes.
She loved it.
Like if I was caught, because they couldn't do anything. What are they going to do? Yell at me? That's not my fault. So.
That is pure comedy. I would be remiss in finishing up this conversation with y'all without asking you that. And girl, you did your thing. And Are You There, God, as Margaret? I just want you to know you did that. So thank you so much. It was a joy to talk to all three of y'all. I'm looking forward to seeing you through the award season because you deserve it.
Oh, thank you. I love your place and your wallpaper. So gorgeous.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that you appreciate my taste.
Thank you so much. Have a
You're
great
welcome.
day.
Bye.
Yeah.
When I tell you, I had the best time talking to them. And when I tell you the film is not a comedy, so I don't want y'all to walk away from this thinking that it's a comedy, but there are a lot of comedic moments throughout the film because of the theatrical element of these older people putting on Shakespeare, which made me laugh out loud, like seriously. But it's called Ghostlight. It hits theaters this week. It is an IFC film. It stars Keith Kupferer, Catherine Mallon Kupferer, and Tara Mallon, and it's directed by Kelly O'Sullivan and Alex Thompson. Please do yourselves a favor and get to an indie house and support this film. Just support the film. It's called Ghostlight. So I'm just gonna, before I get into bad boys, let me do a recap of what I've talked about. So I talked about going for people in LA to check out Jelly's Last Jam, which is playing over at the Pasadena Playhouse with my friend Cress Williams, who's located there in the middle. I talked about Ghostlight, which is also dropping this week in a theater near you. It's an IFC film. Pictured in that film is Keith Kupferer and Dolly De Leon. And Firebrand is dropping on June 14th. The embargo does not lift until tomorrow, so I cannot talk about it right now. And coming up on some future episodes, we're going to talk about the big hit that came out of the Cannes Festival, Yorgos Lanthimos' Kinds of Kindness. We're going to talk about Janet Planet. We're going to talk about Tuesday with Julia Louis-Dreyfus. We're going to talk about The Bike Riders. And my personal favorite that Brandon just absolutely loves, we're going to talk about Inside Out too. I'm going to have lots of things to say about that I can't say right now, but I will be talking about that next week, all of those things next week. So again, Inside Out 2, The Bike Riders is coming up Tuesday, Janet Planet, Kinds of Kindness. Check out Firebrand, check out Ghostlight. All right. And, my mouse is sticking. There we go. And Pasadena Playhouse production of Jelly's Last Jam. All right. So, Bad Boys for Ride or Die. You know, I'm a ride or die for Will Smith and Martin Lawrence. I love them. I think that they are so tremendously talented. These brothers have been doing this franchise for 30 years. Can you believe it was 30 years ago that we first saw them paired together? And 30 years ago, they were both respectively big, huge stars on their own sitcoms. Will Smith on The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and Martin with his show Martin, self-titled, that also starred Tisha Campbell, Tashina Arnold, um, a bunch of other folks whose names escape me at the moment, but that's no disrespect toward them. Um, but those shows at the time were huge. So when the announcement was made that they were going to do an action picture with Michael Mann called and produced by Jerry Bruckheimer called Bad Boys, we were like, we were like, Will Smith and Martin Lawrence with a gun, like, get out of here. But baby, it worked, and it's been working for four franchises, so for four chapters of this franchise so far. So this is what happens with Bad Boys Ride or Die. This time they're on the run. So Captain Howard, who was played by Joe Pantoliano, who is not, he's in this film version only by video. He's not a character, an active character like he was in the other ones. His daughter is now taking over where he left off. His daughter works for the FBI, and she's kind of swooping in and taking that role. But he's unjustly, his character, Captain Howard, is unjustly accused of lifelong drug-related crimes. And Marcus and Mike are like, no, we're going to have to do something about that. So in the process of them trying to clear Captain Howard's name, they become framed, they become fugitives, and the cartel has a bounty on their heads. Now, being pursued by their own, they're targeted by the cartels and hunted in every gang, by every gang in every city. And what you gonna do when everybody's coming for you? I know that was a busted pun. I know. I'm not Amanda Salas. I can't do it. But I tried. Anyway, what happens is the roles of these characters end up getting reversed. So in the previous iterations of Bad Boys, Marcus was always a little wild, and Mike was the level-headed one that was like, and this time Marcus is the one who's a little more chilled out, a little more leveled out, and Mike is the one that's freaking out because Mike has just got married. So in the other previous iterations, Mike was single, he was dating here, he was dating there, he was dating everywhere, and he didn't really take life too serious. Now he's married and he's having, anxiety around the fact that this job he has could take him away from someone he loves. Now he gets why Marcus was acting the way that he acted in all these other chapters of the franchise. That to me made this one interesting. And I have to say, it made it more realistic, and it made it like probably my favorite one of the franchise. The brothers are still in shape. They still running and gunning. And I'm just saying, Will Smith, Martin Lawrence, Denzel Washington, all these dudes that were doing the action movies in like the 80s and 90s, and they still going strong. That's saying something. And it's saying that just because you don't get old means you are decrepit. When you get older, you get better, like a fine wine. So I was there for that. The young man who plays Reggie, Dennis McDonald, he steps all the way up to the plate. Okay. It's hilarious. I can't really tell you what he does, but the boy got all of 5 lines of dialogue, and the action kind of speaks for itself. But the audience was cheering because Reggie kind of stepped up to the plate and saved the day. Tasha Smith replaced Tyra Farrell, who played Marcus's wife, Teresa. Not Tyra Farrell. I forgot it's the wrong name. Teresa Randall. Why did I say Tyra Farrell? I was thinking about Boys in the Hood. Tasha Smith replaces Teresa Randall, who played Marcus's wife, Teresa, for a small yet thankless role. I love Tasha Smith, but I felt like they didn't have a whole lot for her to do in this role, nor did they have a lot for the young lady that plays Mike's wife in the role either, in the film either. Michael Bay's cameo action sequence, he does a cameo in the action sequences, do not disappoint, and they stay true to the franchise. There's a little comedic nod to the slap that was heard around the world. And when you see the film, you're going to know exactly what I mean. And I kind of felt like this is his way of saying, okay, it happened. I said, I'm sorry. I paid the price. It was busted. I was wrong. Can we all just get along and move along? That's what I got. That's the gist of what I meant for that. I took that to mean is what I was trying to say. Anywho, that's it. So that's all I got to say about Bad Boys. Bad Boys is a very, very strong franchise in a summer of sequels. We're seeing a lot of sequels this year. We're seeing Furiosa. We're seeing A Quiet Place sequel. We're seeing Inside Out 2. Like there's a bunch of films coming out this summer that are sequels. So I'm really curious to see when one comes out that isn't part of a franchise, how it's going to do, because the franchises kind of speak for themselves. All right, one more time, I'm going to reiterate what the films were I saw. Check out Pasadena Playhouse's production of Jelly's Last Jam. Firebrand is hitting theaters on June 14th. Please check that out. Ghostlight is hitting theaters on June 14th. Please check that out. And of course, Bad Boys Ride or Die is in theaters right now. And in the coming weeks, we'll have Kinds of Kindness, Janet Planet, Tuesday, The Bike Riders, and Inside Out 2. I'm looking forward to talking about all of those things with y'all. But now I'm on my way off to moderate a film called Maestra about female, it's a documentary about female conductors. And remember, there was a whole big thing about female conductors when Cate Blanchett won the Oscar for Tar. So that's where I'm off to. I hope you're having a beautiful and blessed Sunday. And I will see y'all on the flip side. Love, peace, and hair grease, and deuces until the next time. Bye.